Schrader.
Here.
Linderman here. Pohl.
Here.
Bowden.
Here.
Andrews.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Proof of giving public meeting notice, Aaron.
Yep, notice were posted at both schools, sent to Village Digital to City Hall, and members of the media on Tuesday, October 2nd.
Thank you. Item 3 is the consideration of consent agenda. Are there any items A through F that the board would like hold for further discussion? Silence is golden. Would someone move?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I will second. Mueller.
Yes.
White. Yes. Schrader.
Yes.
Linderman. Yes. Pohl.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Administrative reports. We'll start with the fact that elementary school report Troy is out of town, and his report was linked to the agenda that was sent. Are there any questions that Aaron might answer that you would have? All right. Middle school and high school principal report, Chris.
Sure. Football is at the township for level 1 playoffs. Volleyball is working their way through regionals. Cross country is headed to sectionals this Saturday. Girls golf had a good run. It ended at sectionals. We want to wish good skill to all of the teams on their quest for the state championships. We had a good turnout for parent-teacher conferences, with all of the Wednesday night conferences being in person and all of the Friday conferences being held virtually. Thank you to Benfield Swiss House for catering a delicious meal for our teaching staff on Wednesday night. The food was a big hit. 7th grade and their teachers survived outdoor education at Canyon Camp. They were able to make use of the last of the good weather to make memories that will last a lifetime. Special thank you to Miss Williams, Miss Nelson, the other Miss Nelson, Miss Rollins, Miss Hildesheim, Mr. Clayton, Mr. Liberto, and Miss Burkett for making things happen at camp. And to Miss Updike Ames, Miss Myrn, Miss Bell, Mr. Sheevy for holding down the fort back here at school. Special shout out to Mr. Kyle Kern from down in Benton, who volunteered his time to travel down to camp and delivered an amazing lesson on astronomy for our students. And it was greatly appreciated. Middle school had their first monthly celebration. Middle school staff has been working on creating monthly celebrations for students, and each has a theme. The first one was like doing the right thing. Officers Ben Dixon and Officer Lovell came and spoke to the students, and then the teachers had various team building activities for the students to do. Along the same lines, the middle school has begun a PBIS activity where students can be caught doing exemplary activities that align to our matrix. When a student is recognized, they put a sticker on a chart that is displayed in the middle school, and when it's full, they're going to earn a celebration for their achievement. We recognize safety weeks in the last week of September, the first week of October, by having teachers talk with students about the drills that we do, and also why we practice them. In those 2 weeks, we had a fire drill, a tornado drill, an evacuation drill, a secure and hold drill, and a lockdown. Band and choir have been busy. The band marched in the Keeler Parade at the beginning of the month. Choir hosted a concert performing songs with a theme of love. Choir students participated in Choral Fest at UW-Platteville, and our senior music students were able to travel to Madison to see Aladdin for their senior music trip at the Overture Center. FFA had students participate in state soils competition and the World Dairy Expo. Tomorrow, students are going to be traveling to Southwest Technical College to participate in Ag Days, where they can learn about various jobs and training in agriculture. Students will be working with the Parents Club to provide a petting zoo this weekend at the elementary school, and they will be decorating pumpkins on the 29th. Fruit sales are in full swing, so if you need some fruit, see one of the FFA students and they'll help you out. Ava Nice was selected to be the state ambassador for Educators Rising. FCCLA members will be attending a leadership conference at Stevens Point next week. They're also working on their 3rd year of collecting candy to support treats for troops. And babies are back. Miss Merwin's parenting class, students were able to care for a baby doll the past week. Students were required to carry the car seat with an infant and a diaper bag for the week. They got to take the babies home each night and spent a week with them, a weekend with them as well. Students learned about the amount of time that a child can require, and next up are the simulation babies that actually need to be fed and changed and dried. They cry as well. So, Mr. Kopp's construction class was able to travel to UW-Platteville for Construction Career Day. They learned about the various construction careers that range from a 4-year degree to ones that only require an apprenticeship. They were able to participate in hands-on activities like driving a mini excavator forklift simulator. They got to do some bricklaying, welding, and they were able to design a baseball stadium. And finally, maintenance has updated all of our safety lights in the district, winterizing facilities, and making needed preparations for cleaning up that stuff that we're not going to talk about just yet. And that's all I got.
That's all.
That's all. It was a busy month.
Thank you, Chris. Deb went home sick, so unless you have a special ed report,
I linked that in the.
you did.
Yeah,
Okay.
not much.
Business manager report, Heather.
So for the 22-23 fiscal year, I submitted several reports on behalf of the district. I submitted our annual report, our special ed annual report, and our summer school pupil count report. And then with the submission of these reports, I am very happy to say that I officially closed the 22-23 fiscal year. So now I only have to work in one fiscal year, which makes me very happy. An update on the 23-24 fiscal year. At the end of September, we were a quarter of the way through our fiscal year, and we had spent about 16% of our Fund 10 budget, which is in line with spending for last year. An update on our Fund 49 or our referendum checking account. In the month of September, our total revenues in that checking account was $1,196,514.01. Expenses that cleared that account were $123,421.93. And the balance at the end of September was $1,138,750.46. In other news, the district currently has one teaching assistant position open. If anyone knows anyone who would be interested in this position, please have the individual contact me and I can provide them with more details. The district received our final revenue dollar amounts from the state last Friday. So I spent the last few days finalizing our revenue limit worksheet. And then I'm currently working to make any last minute changes to the 23-24 budget. And I'm prepping all the documents that will be used at our annual meeting next week. And that's all I have.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you. Aaron, superintendent report.
Yep, since our last meeting, not many changes in the FEMA process of being approved for the brick safe room. Currently, we're waiting on emergency management to work with us in the historical and environmental study. We believe that we'll probably get it within the week to determine our eligibility. We were assured last week that they are aware that the FEMA grant is a 3-year, everything has to be expended in 3 years. They notified us that they do understand that we're going to be starting soon the second year of a 3-year referendum as well. And they're going to try to speed things up. So we hope that they can do that. But until we pass this all important hurdle of getting the final okay with brick, we really can't move forward with any planning whatsoever. So we're still in the waiting game. And I have to remind everybody, when there's $8.5 million on the line, we wait. We will be inconvenienced. It's not comfortable for those of us that are in the core planning meeting because we want to get moving. But that's pretty much what we're doing every other Wednesday right now, is hearing FEMA updates and what we have to do and how long that timeline is. And it might be 3 months before we get an official timeline, because that's how long it's going to take to get FEMA to give us that approval. And for that much money, we'll wait. As we enter our winter season, I'm happy to report that based on our recent parent guardian survey about virtual learning parent satisfaction, 88% of our parents reported that they were satisfied or very satisfied with our usage of virtual days. We had about 66.5% of parents report that it took the right amount of time to complete the work. We had 28.7% state that it took less time than expected. And we had 4.8% of parents saying that it took more time than expected. As you know, we kind of told teachers in K2 to take this around this much time, 3-5 around this much time, 6-8 and 9-12. they range from 60 minutes up to about 4 hours. So that's the time that they were responding to. I'd like to thank our teachers for adapting to those virtual days and doing a great job of providing content specific and time requirements that we've asked them to meet, which allows us to continue our students' education on days where there's inclement weather. Remember, these are not full 7-hour days, so it does range from about 1 to 4 hours, one in early and 4 in high school. This allows us to not add days to the end of the calendar and continue the education that occurred the day before. And it seems like there are more schools in the area that are continuing or starting that process as well. While working with Heather on the state budget, we've had to make some tough decisions. With around $700,000 less in one-time revenue compared to last year, primarily from the ESSER Grant 2 and 3, as well as the Emergency Connectivity Grant. The normal timeline for finalizing our budget is that we get the estimates in early July. We spend a couple months going through all the lines of our Fund 10 budget, which is about 8,000 of them, and take out any one-time expenses or things, oh, we don't need that this year. That was a one-time thing last year. We find out, okay, last year we budgeted 1,000, but we really only needed 650. We do that, and that's when we come up with our first budget and finance meeting, present our first draft. This year, trimming was not an option. We had to gouge, and even with that, we were well over budget for the school year for the first time in 7 years. So we made all department heads reduce their budget by around 20% each. That includes buildings and grounds department, the elementary school, the middle school, the high school, middle school athletics, high school athletics, district administration, and school board budgets. That was not enough, so we had to go deeper. In order to reduce our budget, we had to make some decisions that we are not happy with. These budget cuts included huge cuts to student field trips, teacher professional development, travel expenses, and district-wide supplies. These are decisions that we were forced to make because our state legislators' priorities regarding public schools. I've been sharing for months now that we are approaching the fiscal cliff, and here we are. While our fund balance is healthy right now, and we can absorb this for 1 year, we cannot absorb this for 2. As a district, we will be having some tough conversations about which route to go on, and based on the Wisconsin Association of School Board and Wisconsin Association of School District Administrators, they give us 3 options that almost all public schools will have to deal with in the next 2 years. Option 1 is go to the public with an operating referendum. Option number 2 is make staffing cuts. Option number 3 is make overall program cuts. Those are the 3 options that we're hearing from our state organizations. These are similar to what we will, the majority of public schools will be taking, or will be talking about as they near the fiscal cliff this year or next year, depending on how much they receive in ESSER funding. So again, we received the state minimum in ESSER funding. Some schools around our area received up to $3 million in ESSER 3 funding, where we received 500,000. So that's where that buffer is. Some might get another year out of that. The administrators around the table will have to say no to things that we don't want to say no to for the entire school year. That's going to be difficult. Throughout the year, we will have to come back to this topic and determine which option or options we want to move forward with as a district. That's my report, as gloomy as it is.
Thank you, Aaron. Any questions of Aaron?
What kind of district supplies? You said field trips, professional development. District supplies?
So that's K-12. So not just the district, like the district office.
But what were
That's
the words you said? Discretionary?
discretionary district spending for supplies. So a lot of classroom supplies were already purchased and were there ready for September 1. So we looked at the remaining supplies in all of our departments and all of our schools.
So no more budget for teachers to order things for their classrooms?
It's going to be a big reduction.
And then already being understaffed, what do staff cuts look like? Where could we possibly lose someone?
So that's if the board tells
Yeah,
me that,
yes,
if
yes.
the board tells me to go back and make some decisions on that, I would. I do not want to get people all nervous
No.
about that ahead of time. But yeah,
Like we would go last hired, or,
no, we would not have, you don't have to go last
Okay.
hire anymore.
thank you, I'm
Nope.
a little lost with that. And then, okay, referendum, staff cuts, or what was your third one? Sorry, my computer's not charged and I
Sorry,
couldn't keep up.
program cuts.
Thank you. And what does that look like?
Program cuts would be, like athletics is a program. That would be one. Other extracurricular items outside of the school that would categorize as different programs.
Thank you.
If I may, my longevity allows me to speak that we've crossed this bridge once before.
Okay.
That we've ran so many referendum, they're all muddled in my mind, but there was a point in time where we had this conversation and the board directed the superintendent at the time to look at cuts and what would that look like. So the administrator met with the principals and came back with a list of items and what it would save. And after discussion at the board level, the board decided unanimously that they would not make those cuts and they would go forward to operating referendum. The concern that I would have in even broaching that subject again is that if in fact you said, well, we'll cut A, B, and C, you're either going to have to just do it and see if that would balance your budget. And if it didn't, you're still at operating referendum.
Mhm.
And if you said, well, no, we won't do it, and you're going to go to operating referendum if it fails, you're probably going to then have to do it.
Right.
There wouldn't be a plan B.
Um,
You've already, explored it, other than you've got 6 months to go back to 7 months to go back to referendum again in November, or the following April, whichever time, if you ran one. And you can only ask 2 questions a year. And so if you asked for an operating referendum and if it failed, you can go, in the next general election cycle to re-ask the question again. And,
oh, go ahead, sorry.
and so at this point, none of those are good.
No.
I know that the public would not be excited to hear that we would be going to operating referendum after having just asked for an operating referendum.
Would they be aware of the choices though? Like, here's our
That would-
referendum, or we could cut people from the school district.
Well, I would say that would be our job
Okay, I get it.
is to, if and when you do that, i.e. go to a referendum, you'd have to sell why you're going.
Right, okay.
But secondarily, I guess the caution would be is if you said, it's referendum or we cut, I would say that my concern from the past was that you would actually have to be fully prepared to do that, because there may be some voters who would say,
Of course.
oh, well, yeah, we're not going to vote for it, so you should make the cuts. So,
Can I just add that the $200,000 operating referendum that we asked for last November, that $200,000 was for the additional space for the building addition that we're putting on. So that was not to balance our budget. That was just for the additional custodial staff that we're gonna have to hire, cleaning supplies and utilities. So I know you probably know that, Gary, but I just wanted to make sure everyone listening online and sitting in the room understands that $200,000, that was just for the building addition. That wasn't to balance the budget.
The other part that's difficult, that will be difficult for us to explain if we go down that route of operating referendum, is that on one hand, with the building project, we're under budget and we get this grant and we're talking about adding more brick and mortar. You can't use any of those funds for your operating referendum, and that's not the same thing. If you run your own business and you have revenue, you can use it wherever you want to. In schools, we can't do that. So, a lot of our meetings, like the last 2 months, especially the last 2 weeks, we order one, we're like, well, what can we add? What can we add? What can we add? Because we have funds to use here with the building project. And then I go to the operating referendum, and it's like, what do we have? So it's feast and famine. And that's going to take us we just have to explain. They're 2 separate buckets, and it only flows one way. You can use operating dollars for projects. That's fine. You can't use referendum dollars for projects at all in your operating referendum. So it just doesn't flow the other way. And that's going to be something that if we go that way, we'll have to communicate and educate them on, because that's not how business works. And it's not how your household budget works. And that's understandable that it's going to be a little different.
Well, and I guess, we've faced challenges in the past and, I mean, we're in a very unique period here, as Aaron just said, with building projects and, basically expanding, the facilities and improving the facilities for kids now and in the future. And again, if we just keep kids at the center of our thinking and use that as the reason why we would want to maintain programs and staff and seek the understanding of the voters and try to go forward with that, I think we'll be fine. So we just need to, be prepared, as Aaron and Heather have stated, and are working with the finance committee to try and, figure out a course of action moving forward. But it's not something that's alone. We had our negotiation meeting last week with teachers, and Eileen Brownlee, our attorney, said that she has more school districts running referendum in the next year than at any time in the past. So, others are facing the same issue, that when CPI is 7 or 8% and the state only gives us 2%, we can't quite make ends meet. So, any legislators or people of power that are willing to listen, start writing, calling, and doing, whatever you can. So, thank you. Moving on, discussion of additional scope items for the building project if the district receives the FEMA brick grant. Aaron or Chuck?
Hi, how are you?
You want to?
Yeah, we met today, and our architects really want to get working on some initial design. So until FEMA tells them to, they can't start doing the design for the FEMA gym box. And because the gym box is the centerpiece and things are built along that, they're kind of stuck. So they're like, okay, we feel like we're going to get all this. It's just going to take us 3 or 4 months. What projects do you want us to start looking at designing? We felt like the Performing Arts Center was the resounding #1 project from the entire board. So we gave them the green light to go do that. And they said that's good enough to get them started. They also said they'd like to start designing the Performing Arts Center and the library would seem to go together very well. And so turning this into 3 classrooms, imagine a hallway from that door to that door. 1 classroom over there, that would be a big lab, 2 classrooms over here, and then build a brand new library up the front. They just said, let us start working on those. The Performing Arts Center is going to be a lot more labor intensive than this, because that got a lot of traction in our last meeting. And then they wanted us to talk tonight about the elementary school kitchen. And they're like, let us know whether you want us to start working on remodeling of the kitchen and fixing the things that are wrong with it, or the addition of your kitchen. And so that's really all we're going to be talking about tonight, is that's kind of the guidance they want. They did give us some numbers, looking at in the elementary kitchen, a lot of the problem is in the walls and in the floors. So looking at the pipes and the electrical, not so much the equipment, if I remember correctly, Janet, there's a lot of equipment that's still good down there, but there'll probably be some equipment. But that's what we're looking for. It also goes into the art room, because we've got some water that just bubbles up in the art room from time to time. So there's some work in that room as well. Their estimates, from hearing what we want to do, looking at the pictures that we have of that, they thought that fixing all that in the kitchen and making sure that kitchen is functioning and in good shape would be between $350,000 and $400,000 to fix all that stuff. Looking at building the new addition, they had two different examples. One was right off Jesse's office, out the front, which we didn't like that because we really like how the parking lot flows right now. Another one back by where the basketball hoops are in the playground back. What exit is that, Jesse? Is that?
Exit 4.
That's exit 4. But they were really just looking at square footage, and they said that's going to be probably between about 1.6 and 1.8 million dollars to build that. So we want to talk tonight about pros and cons of the renovation versus the addition, knowing that we did purchase that land off H for about 800,000 with the intention, again, that's going to be another board. Some of you might be still on, okay, but a very different board and probably a whole new admin team. But that was the intention of purchasing that, was to build a new elementary school. So do we want to put 1.6, 1.8 million into a cafeteria expansion, or do we want to fix all those different things? So that's kind of what they asked us to give them some direction on tonight. Chuck and Gary, did I miss anything that we talked about today?
No.
That's pretty much.
The only other thing I would share before we get into that conversation was they ran through everything, and then I was having difficulty with my simple mind here of trying to kind of paraphrase what might happen when. And basically, and guys help me here if I screw up, is they said that the RFP for the project we might get within a week. But there's two different projects that the FEMA or the federal government has to approve. One of them is the Indian historical thing. And so it's been sent out to the Nation of Tribes a couple weeks ago. And that might take 1 to 3 months for them to give their blessing. And the other one is a
Historical environmental impact.
environmental impact. So, and so basically, we might not hear anything till January for approval. So if we do anything in the meantime, we might risk losing the 8 million, or we might, in essence, not, we might waste our money because we don't know really what to do or where we're going. And so at this point then, if it's January, it might be April before we actually get any, plans from our architect to get the contractor to do any further, bids for the project. So it's going to take us, we'll be lucky if we do much next year. We're trying to figure out what that looks like, but we have so many ifs to figure out what's happening. So at this point, the 4-letter word wait is probably what we're doing. So at this point, we don't know anything more than that going forward. So we're trying to expedite things by figuring out if there's something we can do in the interim. But basically, the grant writer said, if they find out that you do A, B, and C, it might jeopardize your funding.
So we said we will not do A, B, and C.
So at this point, we'd love to do everything, but the bottom line is they're probably going to finish the parking lot and the wall down there. They're going to maybe move the fence and grade that south end of the parking lot so that there's not a 2 or 3 foot drop, so that it could be used. And they'll put the fence back. They're going to put the railing up on the wall, button things up, and they'll leave for the winter.
Yeah, which we're in a holding pattern because we can't jeopardize the gift. Hopefully we get it, and they were talking today, Brad, maybe April, we could, it's all approved to get it out for bid,
With our old timeline, it was really nice because Brad had all the bids. Bids came in. And so then we have all winter to do shop drawings and everything. They had time to order all the supplies so that May 10th, everything could start. Now we have to wait, and if bids aren't sent out till March or April, and he gives them even 2 or 3 weeks. By the time we get all the bids in, that's great, but they've got to order all those things, and they're not going to be ready May 10th to do all the things that we wanted to. Some things can. There's still some things that aren't FEMA related. But as far as the overall timelines, it's going to be a little frustrating because we ended school early. And if we wouldn't have gotten the FEMA grant, May 10th was the day that everything was going to be here. We're not going to get as much done this summer
No.
as we wanted to, and they've talked about, well, maybe next summer we can start early or late. And I said, until you guys show me a timeline that makes sense, we're not going to start messing with the school calendar. But that might be an option.
So at this point, we might do some elementary projects that are simple and or able to do during the summer, but there probably won't be hardly anything done at the high school.
I think we're gonna try and do the parking lot one up there.
I don't know.
The parking lot, I think they were going
Correct,
to try to
you know,
do.
for the parking lot. So
By the time the kids come back, we'll have the footings and foundations and all that stuff out there, but
Yeah.
it won't be as far along as we want.
If
But
we
it's
would have
some-
the grant would have been rolling in November.
Yep.
The footings would have been in now. Luckily, we didn't turn a shovel. Because we were going to it.
We're about 2 weeks away.
So at this point, maybe 6 months from now, Aaron will be able to give us all a timeline, I guess, which is kind of what we discussed today for when A, B, and C, and D, and E will happen. And, at this point, like the FEMA grant, everything that's expended and spent has to be kept in this bucket, which is, Heather's gonna have a lot of fun with that. And everything else that's not FEMA related it has to be in the referendum bucket.
Right.
And they might actually do some of the referendum building projects before the FEMA one.
Right. Once we get the FEMA grant locked down, then we gives us an option to do some other things.
Mhm.
Because we gotta have
Right,
a
then
place.
we'll make decisions. Right now,
Right.
we're just kind of
Yeah.
discussing. So, at the elementary, we talked about, obviously, if we don't do the kitchen, the brand new kitchen, the kitchen build, we do a kitchen renovation. What else can we do down there? Some of the things, removing all the portable walls, making those permanent if we want. Some renovations in the library to make that more conducive for one time is something that,
Are those items that fell into the top priorities? Because I know we talked about prioritizing and figuring out what we could do with the money that we had, and that wasn't everything.
correct. Yep, some of them work. So some of the projects, like those dollar amounts are really key. And right now, until we get a drawing, we can't get a good price on those. So the priority list is going to be really important for those big major ones. And then we're like, okay, well, we can't do these next 3 because they're too big ticket items, but we can do some of these down here. So those are some of the things that we're talking about right now. And I
Just
think-
don't want to run out of funds, so we can't do the top priority because we were
Correct.
working on bottom.
Yeah,
priority.
and that's why we can't, until we get the yes from FEMA. And what they're kind of working on right now is, okay, this is what we think. The FEMA grant's $8.79 million, but that's reimbursable. So we have to spend that money and we get reimbursed at 88%. So Brad's done a really good job of getting all these bids that are lower. And so like if we use these bids and he gets similar bids for the FEMA project, we may not be eligible for all 8.8, we might be eligible for 7.9 or something like that. So until that's all set,
Right.
we really can't make
Yeah.
decisions on those.
So if we're talking about the kitchen renovation versus new kitchen, you said it was 350 to 400,000 versus 1
1.6 to 1.8 was the range they gave us.
Do you remember where that fell in our list of priorities? I know that wasn't like a final priority list. And
Yeah, and the hard part is we weren't talking, when I sent that to you to kind of rate, we had elementary school kitchen addition, and we didn't have renovation. That one actually came in at
Yeah.
number 2. It was a number 2 priority.
Okay, well, that makes me.
So
feel
that was
better.
a high priority, but that's when it was an addition. And so now we want to talk about, is that something that we want to do in addition, or do we want to do a renovation? And obviously the renovation would allow for more projects.
Yeah.
I think dollar wise and building wise, you're better off just to renovate it and update it. It's a plumbing issue, so that's the art room. If you got other problems you gotta address this summer, that we still have to deal with, I just can't see putting, I say between 1.6 and 1.9 into a building, you know it's gonna be gone in a certain amount of time.
And
It's
I support that. I just
throwing a
think
lot of
that
money away for nothing.
fixing, you know, the kitchen, the plumbing, the electrical, especially the sewer pipes that are under the floor, would make that building continued usable, kind of like what we've been doing with the rest of it versus building a new addition to a 65-year-old building. And they've always said that adding to a round building isn't very easy, but, and I think that, you know, that would fix what we've been trying to do at the elementary, plus then it does allow us the dollars to spend elsewhere.
Could we get, or I get a list of what that renovation is even going to include versus, I mean?
Yep, so that's what they want us, so obviously we're paying these people, they're like, well, we'll design too, if you want us to bring them forward and say it's either this or this. Or you guys can say, no, let's see what this is, but primarily they would be probably knocking down a lot of the walls and a lot of the flooring, taking out all those
Opening walls
pipes.
up.
They'd be opening all those up, it would be mostly pipes and
Right.
electrical, that would be the most, and then they'd cover it with more modern probably.
Do you have electrical issues down there? I mean, have you talked to Janet at all about what's the need down there at all, or is it just, were you talking about the light fixtures?
There have been electrical issues down there,
There
but
has?
like if you ask Joyce, there are lights that,
It should
that
go
are,
LED.
and maybe there's simple fixes to that.
It should all be LED.
So updating like appliances or any of that, or we're just?
Those would be, those, yeah,
Some,
Thank you.
I think at this point, the issue was is that we wanted to provide for a yes or no on build new versus fix. Because if we originally we went and said, well, can you give us both? Well, then they're gonna be potentially spending money
Right.
on a project that we don't need. So it was left that, you know, Aaron would tell them which way the board wants to go. And, you know, and I'm just saying fix.
Well, fix is just very broad, so I would
Well-
love to know more about what am I getting for that money?
Isn't the main issue really the piping? So I think Janet wants some new equipment down there and her fund balance would allow her to get that new equipment. However, because we have piping issues,
It's the
She
sewer
can't-
line
yes,
under the floor,
she
right,
can't
Chuck?
Yeah,
get
It's
that
shot,
new
it's
equipment
runs away.
Yeah, it's,
because of the piping issues.
it's a drainage issue between that and the art room, and once that's corrected, you're good for a long time, because you gotta get rid of the old cast and the clay and go back to plastic. We got that glue issue that we couldn't address this last summer. Hopefully, I don't know if we had a headache yet or not, with that new going out to the street, but we still know we got an issue where the cast iron and the plastic go together, and we can correct that, everything at one time, and then we're done.
Because right now, they were only able to fix from the building to the street, to
Right.
where it hooks to the city. They found, because they stuck a camera in the pipe, that there's leakage within the building under the floor. And that's what they have to tear out.
I've smelled it.
Yep, yep, and it's coming
You're
up.
in there at a
I
bad
could,
time.
I could see stories being told out here. And that's what I mean by fix.
Thank you. I wasn't at the meeting, so I did not hear the things.
My gut feeling is make it usable for the next
Right.
10 to 15, 16 years.
You think
and
that
then
would be long enough? Like
I'll
this fix?
be alive then, dear.
Yes, you will. This fix you think will be, it'll sustain?
Yeah, it's
That's the
the
plan.
last major headache we got. We did the rub. You know, and we should be good to go. We got the new boilers down there in 17, which are high efficiency, so that's taken care of. So I mean, there's really no other mechanical issues other than the air conditioning headaches once in a while.
Well, we did a lot over the last few years in the
Yeah.
elementary building. We just
3/4 of it
Haven't
was
addressed-
renovated.
haven't addressed this,
Right.
because it's been a problem for more than a year.
Yeah. It's been longer than that. It's been terrible.
Was it a problem when you were down there, Chris?
Huh?
Me too.
There's a lot of not, head nodding out there.
Hasn't,
So if we gave Bray the, okay, we'd like to see some options for remodeling. Is that a potential timeline that we could see some of those improvements happen this summer?
That's,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a totally separate project. I guess what wasn't told to you is from Brad's perspective, is that he wants one electrician company, he wants one plumbing company, and that two, so that's why he's having to wait for FEMA also, because he doesn't want to, do,
Piecemeal it.
piecemeal it, have, somebody say they can go ahead and build the, the library and, and whatever else, and then have to come back with another quote for the rest of the project. But he said since the elementary building is all unto itself, he could bid that separately. He could just do those. And that's not like 3 million, but like, well, what if,
Right.
it's something that you can fit in the existing for under budget.
Right. If it was cafeteria and like the portable walls or something, that's a
Correct.
feasible amount of money.
See, the hardest thing is you gotta separate the cost of the safety box away from everything else. And you're trying to keep your contractors for both, so you don't end up with a mess down the road.
Because eventually those two things meet. And
Yeah.
if you have two different electricians who are running things differently, that can cause
Try
problems.
to compromise both together.
Brad seemed more concerned about different companies for plumbing and electric.
Right.
Those would be good.
And HVAC, mechanics, et cetera.
Dad, did you have anything that you wanted to share?
No, along the lines of fixing it, I think that'd be the right thing to do at this time. So, I'm all for that, but it's my opinion.
I'd be in agreement with that.
Is that, could we direct Darren to tell Bray to proceed with drawing plans, I guess, if I said it that way, Chuck,
Yeah.
for the remodel, and then Brad would be able to put a price tag on it. And then
A rough price tag, you don't know what you're gonna do with the plumbing.
Right.
How much a square foot, what's gonna dig up. I mean, yeah, he can bring in 2 options and bring them back to us, and then we can try and decipher which one.
And then they can start to do some drawings so you can see what
Right, yeah.
And where that goes. Yeah, and if Janet had plans with what you wanted, changed so that make sure that electrical would address.
Right. Do we have to vote on that tonight, or? Yeah, smiling. Okay. It's long overdue.
Is there anything else on there? I mean, that at this point is all we felt we could do. Because the rest of it hinges upon how much money, as you said, Sarah, is left in the pot.
This would be minimal cost to us anyway. To do it this correctly.
Minimal, looking at the pot that we have. In a
Right,
regular-
right.
in a regular budget,
Right.
this is a big,
Right.
huge chunk.
Yeah, with the other stuff, that's
Yeah.
another, the parking lot can be done, if we can clean that up this year, and maybe going in late fall, we're gonna know more and try and get some more started.
Yep.
Hopefully the box will be up by then.
It's exciting.
Yeah,
Sadly,
it's
Mike.
frustrating.
Sadly, I filled out my Christmas list and I won't get anything under the tree this year for Christmas regarding the building project, so.
You can still buy a lotto ticket.
Okay. All righty, if there's nothing else, we don't have any public recognition, so I'd go on to new business. Approved date and time for the November meeting is the 15th at 6:30. Meet Bird's approval. Anybody want to move that? Otherwise, we just move right on. All righty.
Is that Thanksgiving week?
Nope, I think they've been the week before, the next
Right
week.
before.
Yeah. Item B is approve upcoming overnight trips for the high school students and organizations. There was a whole list of them there. I don't know that I'll read them because you can know what they are.
Yeah, this is pretty much all the overnight trips that we're aware of this time. The board needs to approve these. The overnight trips where they're going to where students are competing in things, or they're going there to be able to advance to a nationals. are all on there. A lot of these are funded by their Fund 21 program. So they're funded by the programs. We just have to approve that they have the ability to stay overnight.
Are there any questions for those trips? If none, would someone move, please?
I'll move to approve the upcoming overnight trips for CCHS students and organizations as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mueller,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item C is approve the spring 2024 ECCP and college up list.
Yep, each year we approve 2 different times, one for spring and one for fall. And this is a list of kids who are going to be getting college credit by taking our classes here at Cube City High School.
Is there any question? Would someone move?
I'll move to approve the spring 2024 ECCP and college up list as presented.
I'll second it.
Mueller,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Personnel, A, approve the increase of hourly rate for food service substitute employees. Aaron.
Yep, currently our substitutes in food service make $9.50. Janet said she's having a hard time finding subs, so I asked her to look around and see what the comparables were in the area. And she said they kind of range between 13 and 15, so we settled on 14. That all comes out of Fund 50 account, so that's not Fund 10 that we were talking about with the lack of funding. Janet is the only area in the school that the better they do, the more money they get in their fund balance. Nobody else gets to work that way, and because Janet and the food service department are so good, so many kids eat there that they've got a very ample fund balance of 2.5 times what the DPI says we should. So we get letters that say you guys are making too much money on food service, but we can only buy it or spend that on food service items. So this won't impact the overall budget, just hers, and hers can handle that. So we're suggesting that we make that change.
Any questions?
So it's only for substitute.
Just substitutes, yeah.
If there's no other questions, would someone move?
I'll move to approve the increase of hourly rate for food service substitute employees as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mueller,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item B is approve the current administrative contracts through June 2024.
Yeah, these aren't new contracts. This was an error on my part because I posted it. We had a community member say, hey, you know, the last time you guys extended contracts, it said through June 30th, 2023, but our contracts go through 24. So that was a clerical error on my part that I didn't catch that. So I talked to Eileen and just said, hey, what do we do about this? And she said, well, you know, there's an error, just fix it and act that it goes through. So these are not new contracts at all. This is just cleaning up an error that was my fault. I apologize for that inconvenience.
Question? I will move to approve the current administrative contracts through June 2024 as presented. Is there a second?
I will second. Mueller,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item C is approve the hiring of Mr. Troy Kraus as the middle school girls basketball coach.
Yep. Mr. Kraus has 4 state appearances as a varsity coach and 2 state titles in New London. So I think he'll do a wonderful job there. Middle school girls.
Someone move.
I'll move to approve the hiring of Mr. Troy Kraus as the Kansas City Middle School girls basketball coach as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mueller,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
We're down to the committee reports. Budget and finance, anything?
Yeah, we met last Wednesday, October 11th, and then the October 15th revenue limit worksheet was updated by the state, and they normally don't change a lot, and they changed a lot in that day. So we'll have that ready for the annual meeting.
Just reconfirmed. It's 7 for the, 7 o'clock?
Six.
6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Next Wednesday.
Next month.
Monday.
Monday.
In the elementary school. I would have been here.
That's the thing that I was confused. I'll be sure to send out a reminder.
Thank you.
Building and grounds, I think we've said all there is to say unless you have something else, Chuck.
Now, I am thinking we're just trying to do the best we can, but stretching the time, hopefully it'll go quicker.
And as they do the new design, excuse me, have we settled on a, what's my word?
Logo.
Yes. There's the
I
word.
think we have a meeting
We have
tomorrow
a
about
meeting
that.
tomorrow to get some drafts,
Thank you.
draft ideas. Yep.
So
Logo mascot.
logo
Yep.
mascot.
Yes.
Words. You got me though. Thank you.
Our style.
We have a meeting tomorrow, but I believe that the timeline,
Love that.
it's not gonna be done within the next couple of months. They're gonna try to get down to several different
Okay.
ideas and then bring to this group.
Got it.
But
Thank you.
they're not at that point yet. With building the grounds, one thing to remember, we approved the purchase of 2 vans last, or I forgot what month it was, but several months ago.
Yeah.
And we ordered them last April, and then
They were supposed to be delivered in July.
in July, and then we heard from the people that we ordered with, they were just informed that Ford stopped making that van. So they don't have them anymore. So Ford has stopped making those. So we're gonna have to 12 passenger vans. They're not making them anymore.
And they went back to 15, for which we can't get insurance for.
So we're gonna be looking at some other options for vans, and fewer car companies are making vans. So they're just, it's getting difficult. So, we've already approved the purchase of vans. Just wanted to let you know, the ones we ordered were not made. So we're gonna have to go back out to bid again, just so you know that comes out of the budget, the building and grounds budget. So that's why I wanted to let you know that.
Are we bidding 2 more or just 1?
Probably
Just
One.
one. We had to take the other one out.
We need for this
Well, I wanted to take out the other one,
somebody would-
year.
but somebody wouldn't let me.
We've got one van that we don't take outside of like 10 miles anymore. So,
The old.
Reliable. Personnel, we met a week ago, and the next meeting is
set for maybe October 30th.
policy.
We've got a meeting next Wednesday. I meet with our Neola representative tomorrow.
And tech and transportation, Dan?
Not on that committee.
Oh, I keep forgetting.
We're actually going to meet Wednesday, November 8th at Davis Bus Garage. We'll go through there. If you guys have any questions, anybody on the transportation committee, if you want me to have any available for them, but they're excited to have you there. Check out their garage, check out their buses, talk a little bit about how it's going. And so that will be Wednesday, November 8th.
We get any glitches? Is it going good?
Well, there's always glitches.
Or is it
Look at Jesse's face.
There's
Is it getting better?
better in many ways. There are still hiccups, still learning curves, still things, but better.
Thank you.
They should have hired you as the
No.
bus coordinator.
She
She already is.
No. Anyways, there you go.
Foundation.
Yeah, we'll set up a time to meet January, February now. We'll meet twice a year for that.
CISA 3, if I was to read the memo from Jamie Nutter, it would take 15 minutes. There is so much going on up there. It is unbelievable. I don't know how the man pulls off all he does, but a lot of work, especially with hiring staff for different schools. That's become almost a separate full-time job on his behalf. And he's definitely trying to beat the drum for public schools and everything. So I don't have anything else except I'd like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you. Thanks, Don.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate it. Have a good day. Take care.
6 o'clock Monday on the school gym.
Absolutely.